welcome to the EMS Ad Hoc Committee meeting, 6:30 Wednesday, January 24th. And thank you for coming. So, comments and suggestions from the community? Comments and suggestions from EMS staff? Anything? Have we been introduced?
Not yet, no.
Oh, okay.
Dakota Megelke, I'm the EMT representative for St. Croix EMS.
Good. Thanks for coming.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Discussion and possible action on ad hoc committee minutes of January 10th.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Minutes are approved. All right. Discussion and possible action on work groups. So, Paul, you were working on staffing?
Yeah, I've got a One pass those down. Joe, I got two more if you want to give them to your staff out there.
Okay.
Or your coworkers, I'm sorry, Josh's staff.
Thank you, sir.
I took on some emails this weekend, from this weekend, and it seems that we gotta really push hard to go back to the old staffing model. I think it's important that we push to get that approved and taken care of.
Okay, so,
Can you describe
yes.
briefly what you mean by that?
Can't do that without jeopardizing the people that have come forward to me.
No, just describe the.
Okay, right now, and I've got it all typed up here, a lot of our staff, the way that it used to be, they'd have the flexibility of, you know, it was, we did save money by having them work here where they would be making more money across the river. And, but they had flexibility when they're working in the cities, say, you know, they have to be working for their employer. They have to be at the station, you know, for their shift the entire time. Here we pay them less, but they have the flexibility. They don't have to be, you know, here. If there's no calls, they have their vehicle. They're ready to go. They're ready to, you know, save lives. Report to a call, respond to a call, I should say. I think it's important for morale and to get a lot of these shifts filled up. I think there were some shifts that went this weekend that were empty, that needed to be filled up. So I got this for you guys to look at and let me know your thoughts. And I think the two recommendations that you'll agree with me on the bottom there are revert to the old model is the number one, and number two, just because you have to have something else, is fund the model that we have now and pay them more to get them to stay. We're losing people. We need to get these people that are only working, I think it was, Joe, help me, 24 hours a week?
Yep, the 0.6.
Or Josh, 20, yeah, they need to get back to working as many hours as they want and can. Give me a part-time name of someone. Dakota, how many hours a week do you work?
Right now, the 24.
How many were you working before this model?
72 to 96 a week.
Okay? And if we have an open shift somewhere, he can't fill it because of the new model. No, just get back to the old model. Let's, I don't want to say we get back to basics, but get back to something that's been working for over a decade.
Brandon's not here.
Yes.
Have we heard from him on this issue?
Well,
Josh is here. Josh works with Brandon side by side.
Josh?
I don't want to talk too much without Brandon here. I mean, this is Brandon's schedule that, you know, that he came up with, but it's obvious right now that it's not working. And I mean, this past weekend's a prime example. It didn't work. Just because from a lot of people that you talk to, it is a big hour restriction.
Yeah,
For
and Brandon
people
was
we
sick
have.
this weekend and couldn't work.
Correct.
Is that true? Yeah, he was sick.
Right.
It happens.
Mm-hmm.
But when someone can't cover a shift because of the restrictions that that have been put on with this new model, why? It's why?
Yeah. It's
Why
understandable.
can't Dakota, no reason I'm saying, he's sitting right next to me, why can't he work? Dakota, how many hours did you used to work again?
96.
Yeah, right? Let him work.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100%, but this is what the city that they levied on us when this schedule or this model was created. EMTs are capped at the 24, and they can't work any more than that. Otherwise, blows our budget out of the water because then they're due, more benefits, the health insurance and all
How
that.
they could work 96 hours in the past.
Because there's a different pay rate. It was a stipend pay amount.
Oh,
So it didn't
they're
have a-
contract employees, not
Pretty much. It
employees.
didn't have an hourly wage attached to it. Yeah, you could break it down to an hourly wage, but they weren't paid an hourly wage. They were paid a stipend for a 12-hour shift.
So there were no benefits.
Correct. No retirement either. So
And one of the drawbacks was that they were on call, so they weren't physically in the building, and they couldn't be directed to do other activities that would support the department because they were, they weren't required to be in the building.
Right, and they weren't being paid for being in the building. They
No,
were paid
they-
for
being on
calls.
call.
If
Yeah.
the call was. Okay.
The one thing I'd like to point out on that, though, is there's a requirement and an expectation that you have to live within 4 minutes of the building. And 90% of our staff doesn't, and 90% of our staff stays in the building whether there was a sanction or not. So to go back to the old model, the citizens wouldn't be losing any service. Because even though we would say, Dakota, you're a stipend employee, you can stay at home. Dakota lives in Stillwater. Dakota will be in the basement
Okay.
for 96 hours. But there was the flexibility of he could still walk down to, downtown. So there wasn't a restriction. But I don't want there to be the thought process that we're going to be losing service, because that won't happen. Our staff stays in-house whether they're told to or not. So you still have the benefit, if we went back to the old way, that you'd still have your staff pretty much in-house. And the medics would still be in, if we went back to the old system, would be in quick response vehicles. So even if those of us that live in the community, even if we were at home, we have an emergency vehicle parked in our driveway ready to go.
Dakota, is working 96 hours really okay with you?
When I was doing it, I didn't have a problem with it. Because
How many
nowadays,
weeks in
I'm
a
just,
row would you do that?
what's that?
How many weeks in a row would you do that?
It was on a weekly basis. During last year and stuff like that, I have another full-time job now that I do, so I couldn't pick up as much now. But yeah, we're in the 96. I mean, it's just down there living basically. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a little apartment.
Yeah.
So
But no, people like Dakota that are on the staff have to go out or had already gone out now and gotten other
Right,
jobs.
no, I understand.
How are we gonna get them back? I think they wanna come back. I mean, it's all pointed out here. There's people on here that love Hudson EMS. There's
Right.
people on here that love this community.
I did the surveys, I understand.
Yep. Now they're just told to,
Right.
hey, find other work.
So.
And you're the council member. I mean, what do we do? How do you get back to the old model?
from what I've heard, the problem being is going to be taking pay away back, taking the EMT's pay back away, because they went from their stipend pay to an hourly pay. So more or less you're going to have to take that back, otherwise it's going to blow our budget completely out of the water. If you're going to move them back to a stipend pay, where we don't have to worry about the benefits. I don't know if we can, I don't know. That's just the internal grumblings that I've gotten about asking questions back and forth with Brandon, is that the pay issue that the EMTs are getting paid right now might be an issue of switching back to the old way.
Sure.
Because obviously at 96 hours a week in Dakota, at the pay rate of whatever the basic would be, $12.50 or whatever it is, I think. I mean, that's a lot more than just the 24 that we have on the books right now for him to work.
I understand that, but the city's also saving a lot of money when no one's working. We're
Correct.
taking a huge risk of,
Correct. I'm just saying, the most of the concerns that would be for the city would be through financials, would be just our budget.
when's Brandon going to be coming back to these meetings?
Not for a while.
He's taking the class on Wednesday nights.
Class on Wednesday.
He's in class through June or July, so.
I think we need to meet with Brandon.
Yeah.
So let's schedule a meeting on a non-Wednesday night.
Okay, let's do that.
I think what we'd be going back to would be less pay per hour, but more hours available. It's kind of
And no benefits.
and no benefits. So they're not getting any benefits now anyway. Well,
Well, they
they
get-
are as a retirement.
They get retirement, but
We're also missing the biggest thing, morale.
We're missing people working,
Yeah.
and that's an indicator of the morale.
And another
The situation's not attractive at all. Sorry.
Another indicator, I think, should be too of the fact that we had, how many positions? 6? Yeah, not of the current staff. How many applied for those positions? 1, 2?
for the appointed positions,
Yeah.
for the EMTs,
Yeah.
I think we had, for .6s, I think we had 1 or 2.
So from the staff that already worked here, essentially nobody applied for these positions. We're hiring from the outside or trying to hire from the outside.
And what's the status on that?
I know we just hired 3
Okay,
today, so they got their phone call, and we scheduled a orientation date for the 1st, next Thursday,
okay.
so
3 out of how many applicants?
4. 1 wasn't qualified, so
All right, so of these 3, you're hoping 1 sticks.
hopefully. In the past, if we've hired 5, we usually lose a given 2, almost half, so, right away. But it depends, on all the people you hire. I mean, they seem good when you interview and stuff, but all depends on if they can do the job or
We hire 3 or offer 3.
officially offered the job to 3, and all 3 have accepted, so.
Tell us more about what happened last weekend.
Between sicknesses and, it's the hour restrictions. I know Dakota was available all weekend, but he couldn't work because he already worked his 24.
We had no staff. We had staff on call.
Yeah, we had 1 medic on call. And obviously we had to backfill with another transporting agency, so, to come in and transport. Scott was a medic on Saturday. Scott ran to all the calls on Saturday, and other ambulance services were called.
To do transfers.
Correct, to actually transport the patients that needed to be transported.
Which is one of the reasons, or indicative of one of the reasons why, as I understand it, the new staffing plan is that the new staffing plan, we should be able to do more transfers, correct?
Should be, if we were
staffed all shift.
if we were fully staffed.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd have this, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I think if our staff, if we had exactly what we wanted to run this model, I don't think we'd have a problem.
And I agree with that, and Brandon and I talked about that earlier. Obviously, he's not here to speak for it, but the model, the new model that we switched to and that's proposed and that Brandon came up with, when we're fully staffed, I think that model is fine. But that should be for 6 months from now, when we're finally fully staffed. It didn't help us last weekend, so we need something.
So are you suggesting that we delay the new model until we were fully staffed and continue with the old model? Is that what you're proposing?
I'm not proposing anything.
Okay. Are you suggesting
My opinion,
anything? Okay, your opinion?
my opinion as a staff member is that if we reverted to the old model, at least temporarily, until we were fully staffed, I don't think that there's an inherent flaw with Brandon's model whatsoever. We just don't have the staff to support it. And while we don't have the staff to support it, things like last weekend will happen.
Do you have the ability to put that in effect or not?
No. And I'm not even sure exactly, is the Correct me if
Yeah,
I'm wrong, Jim.
go ahead.
All right, so.
Take a shot.
Yeah, the city council does have the ability to make changes and direct the operations. But usually it's the department heads that make those calls.
But the EMS committee would have to approve this, wouldn't
The EMS commission?
Commission.
No.
No, because
So
the.
you're telling me Brandon could make this call?
No.
No, I think it would be Brenda and then the,
Brandon can make the call, but it's gotta go back through finance and
Finance
city
and-
council
Sure. City has to pay
for
for it.
approval.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, as I understand it, the budget for this coming year was built on the new staffing model,
Correct.
correct?
yeah. It would have
So the
to,
city's gonna have to relook at, I mean, if we recommended this and they agreed, they'd have to fit it within the budget somehow.
And that's one thing me and Brandon sat down and talked about the other day, you know, can we make changes to our current staffing model if we stay within the budgeted amounts that are budgeted for this year? Can we make changes as long as we stay in those budgeted parameters for, you know, that's budgeted for this year?
And did you get an answer to that?
He said it'd be a question that he'd have to ask Brenda. So
That was what I was figuring.
What did you have to do to authorize, to get the new staffing model authorized?
we'd have to go back through finance and,
Did that go through city council and so on and so on?
through.
I mean, we pretty much have to, I mean, to me, pretty much we're gonna have to rework our 2018 budget. And
Yeah, it's
ask
part of the
for-
budgeting process because the budget was dependent on this new staffing model.
Correct.
I think changing it is not an impossible task. It can be done. It's a matter of going through the work and figuring out what is it, I think what we're looking for is there a gap plan that will work? My question about whether it'll work or not is, we're back into it's a temporary situation. People are taking full-time, you're saying people are taking full-time jobs now. Are they going to drop those jobs and come back and work their 96 hours?
I think some of them will. But is there any way that this could be, I don't want to say pushed through, but is there any way this could be, this is a slow process.
Could we do a hybrid of the two plans?
I don't have that answer.
So that's something that we need to have Josh to discuss. So we need to have a meeting as soon as possible with Brandon. And
Right,
Brenda.
but my question is this, say we all get together and we agree on it. I don't have any power, I'm not part of this. How fast will it be that we don't have to go through another weekend like this weekend where Dakota is sitting at home playing Nintendo and actually helping?
We can get it to the city council as soon as we discuss it
Yeah.
at their next meeting. Now, we haven't, all right, so at this time, our city council meeting for Monday night was canceled due to the weather.
Right.
We are Devin's trying to come up with a date, possibly Monday of next week, for the council to meet, to make up that meeting. Then the next one that is scheduled is the 12th of February. So
And I suppose it can't be on this Monday's.
it can be put on this Monday's agenda if we can have something to put on it.
Yeah, you've got
I don't know if that's enough
1.5
time to.
days to put the plan together.
Well, if you go
To
back to
do
the old
the-
plan for a temporary, that takes care of this weekend. I mean, how do we fix this weekend coming
Well,
up?
okay, let me, so I was asking about what happened this weekend. Did anybody die?
Nope.
Were there any calls that we couldn't respond to?
Yeah, we could not no, we sent a person on every call,
Okay.
I was the only one to respond to 3 calls for service. I was related to 2 River Falls and 1 to Baldwin, where I responded in a quick response vehicle with no ambulance.
Okay,
And those were 911 calls. Those were not in a facility.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
exceptionally stressful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure, on
Well,
you
one of them was
especially.
a very critical could have been a very critical patient. that we
Okay.
were waiting. If River Falls was busy and Richmond was busy and Baldwin was busy, that was at the 8-mile post.
Here's the thing, what if Monday's storm came on Saturday
Yeah.
with all the accidents? It would have been bad.
It's hot air fair weekend.
Yes.
That's right.
Sure.
Super Bowl's in a week.
Hotels are booked. I know about it because I've been hearing about it.
We're booked all the way to Menominee.
A lot of people come to town.
Yeah. So, I think what you're telling me is that the city is vulnerable with our current staffing patterns, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a shame if Brandon's sitting at home and would be willing to work and he can't, but that's not such a big deal as the city being vulnerable. Brandon, let me ask you a nosy question, and you don't have to answer if you don't want. If we were to change this plan tomorrow, which we can't, and we could go back to the old system, would you quit your full-time job and come back to work 96 hours?
Would I quit the full-time job? No. I
Okay.
still have a full-time job, but I would be willing to pick up more than 24 hours
Okay.
during the week.
You're doing full-time 40 hours now?
It's 36 hours.
36 hours?
Other job work.
Sorry, I have a hard time thinking that the city should commit itself to employing people for 70 or 80, 90 hours a week.
Yeah. It doesn't seem sustainable.
No, it doesn't.
John, do you have some input?
Yeah, a suggestion might be to recommend that we can allow stipend in the transition. Shifts on stipend pay in the transition.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the EMS committee meeting, Joanne maybe you can back me up, but they already talked about the staffing model last Wednesday and thought it was a good idea, the EMS commission. And it was going to take some time to implement.
Right.
But nobody planned on the gaps, obviously.
Right.
So it would seem that there's still money in the budget to manage stipends while we're trying to figure it out. In other words, does it really require any other action other than you guys just saying, can we stipend pay some people?
Within the budget.
Right.
I think that's
It's in the
crucial
budget.
element.
I mean, this is a problem. I mean,
Right.
clearly it's a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
So my suggestion would be to say, let's try to fill some shifts using stipend pay in the
Okay.
interim, especially this weekend.
Right.
And
All right, Josh?
then we could do some council action in the next meeting or two to make it work. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Josh, can you take this to Brandon and Brenda and find out exactly what can be done right now? And then send a memo through Joanne to the committee to let us know what we need to do, if we need to have another meeting, or if we can if you can act with, or Brandon can act without.
And I think the leverage we have is that the city was vulnerable this past weekend, and it's likely to be worse for the next 2 weekends. I mean, this is a serious management issue to my mind.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. It's not a committee.
It's not a,
No,
that doesn't mean
no.
we need to shut up about it, but
No,
this should go directly from Josh and Brandon to the city administration.
But
Yes.
it's my job, if people are bringing this to my attention,
Oh, yeah.
I have to tell you.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I agree. I
no,
agree.
we appreciate you bringing
Yes,
this.
and thank you for doing it.
And, so, is there any other action that we should take right now?
Can I just bring up one more thing? And I think it's covered in Paul's proposal too, but keep in mind this covers the issues with the EMTs, but it doesn't cover the issue with the full-time medics who are not picking up overtime because we're now restricted to be at City Hall 24/7. Well, not 24/7, but 24 hours, where we used to be able to be out in the community. We still had an emergency vehicle and responded, but with the new model, we're required to be on the ambulance. And that's why you're having not as many paramedics working also.
Okay, can you run that past me again? The change in, what
long
was
and
the old model? What's
the
new
old model, the long and short of it is the paramedics that lived in town got to take the quick response vehicles home.
Okay,
We are now required to stay at the station, and that was the issue with the bedrooms and stuff that we talked about before, because we went from 2 people staying here to 5 or 6 sometimes. So now that we're all required to be in-house,
Okay.
you have less flexibility with the EMTs, and you also now have less flexibility with the medics that aren't willing to.
Right, and to make it even simpler, like what Joe's trying to say is this. Say I'm a medic, and I'm full-time, which I'm not, but I have to be downstairs, but I live in 3 minutes away, okay? Now, I work my weekly shift. I'm not going to pick up any overtime because I just don't want to sit downstairs anymore, right? I don't want to be here in the building anymore. Now, with the old model, I could be still, driving around stretching my legs, even possibly sitting at home. I don't want to say that we're doing laundry, but something like that, waiting for a call. Where I don't mind picking up those extra hours because I'm actually getting some other things done in my life too, besides my EMS shift. Where the old model, that allowed people to it gave people incentive to pick up extra hours. Where now they don't have that incentive because they just have to be here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it's what it is. Like this weekend, I think I don't know, I haven't heard anything, but I would think that other people would have picked up shifts if they knew that they didn't have to be, for lack of a better word, tracked.
What was the justification for making that change?
Brandon's justification was that since we took an EMT off the truck and it was medic EMT trucks, that, per the plan, both crews were at the station and ready when they were working. And Brandon wanted the medics at the station, so. There's some other stuff that was brought up that I can't talk, right? I don't have the information or I don't know what the other word is. I'm looking whether it's true or not, what we were told, or what, I shouldn't say we, but what Brandon was told. But.
Okay. So can you bring this one up to Brandon as well and then report back through?
He knows all about it.
Yeah.
I still think we need to meet with Brandon.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Can we post a meeting? Is it appropriate for us to meet on Friday morning? Can we do that?
Brandon's going to be out of town.
Brandon here tomorrow?
We have a funeral.
But we have a funeral.
We'll be here tomorrow afternoon, after 1.
Right.
After 1?
We have a funeral.
So 1 o'clock you would be here, 1:30?
We have to be back by 1.
But then he leaves for the conference. When does he leave?
It's not going to be a long meeting.
Well,
He'll be here. He'll
Okay.
be okay.
I can't be here tomorrow afternoon. That doesn't mean
We cannot meet as a committee
Oh, right.
tomorrow afternoon
Right.
because we aren't giving proper open meeting notice.
How many could meet? 2?
1, possibly 2.
I like to have a witness for everything, so I don't want to do it by myself.
Let's go for the possibly 2.
I'll make time.
If either Joyce or Jim.
You gotta have 3 to have a quorum, don't you?
I don't think we're looking for a quorum.
John, are you available?
Conversation.
Yeah, I can do it.
You want me here at 1:30?
He's around, sure.
He said he would. I believe Josh.
I'll text him right now.
That'd be good because we'll take it off the.
Then we don't. Then we're for sure that we wouldn't have an open meeting law violation here.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think you raise an issue, though, if, given the restrictions that this places on the paramedics, are we going to be able to make this model work? And how long can we run some sort of hybrid until we get the right people, quote unquote, in place? And is that eliminating people who want to live in town? And is that keeping people from working the overtime that we need? So those two pieces says, those are the flaws in the model. The model is, on paper, is a good model. I think it's heading in the right direction. But it's going to take us 5 years with the plan we laid out to get to the fully staffed operation that we were talking about. And I don't know how we survive. We definitely need either a hybrid model or a temporary model. Financially, since we're not filling the shifts, we probably have the dollars to run this for a couple months without getting into trouble. And that's, Brenda can help us with that. But process-wise, do you think you need to go before you go to the council, that you need to go through public service? Public safety?
No, I don't think so. I think that this is a big enough issue that we need to just handle it as quickly as possible. I don't
want to make sure you're comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with that. I don't, and I think that,
just inform.
Yeah, But Joanne can copy Randy on things and Bill Holmes so that Public Safety Committee is informed. So that's not a problem. But I think that, I mean, this is urgent enough that we need to move ahead as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't in there before.
Mm-hmm.
When they approved it. I mean, things like this happen.
Mm-hmm. So are you comfortable with the plan of meeting tomorrow afternoon and then working from there? And it's going to depend on Brenda and Brandon's reaction.
You're the politician. You tell me by Friday, by this weekend, do you think that it's possible to have this where people can work?
As long as it doesn't need city council approval, then yes.
Right.
Then we can make that happen.
Then I'd feel good about it. It's reluctantly, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's move forward with it. We'll swap cell numbers right after the meeting. And
okay.
Did you hear anything back?
1:30 is good tomorrow.
1:30. Where upstairs? Where do you want to meet?
The EMS conference room?
Oh, right over there at the fire hall?
No, downstairs.
Downstairs?
Yeah.
All right, meet downstairs at 1:30 tomorrow? Deal.
Should be good. I mean, it might be by the time we get back from the funeral and stuff. I mean, it'd be
Yeah, I understand. I'm not going to hold you to
30,
I get it.
140, somewhere around in there.
I got till 2:30 before
So
I
you'll
got with
contact her and
kids.
get
And I don't think the
it.
meeting will take that long.
Okay.
Just think about what you expect to come out of that meeting. I mean, it's either a temporary or a hybrid plan. The temporary plan for this weekend, I think, is probably...
Right, a temporary plan for the weekend, I think, is
For the next 2
automatic.
weekends.
What you know, for a while until they come up with something.
And then,
Yeah.
well, we don't know if the council's going to be meeting on Monday night or not. That's
No,
got the emails. It's just not set yet.
Are you available Monday night?
If I have to be.
Okay. John, are you available Monday night?
Yeah.
All right, so we got 3. I don't know about the other 3. So, but,
I think a temporary transition plan is what I would like to see, and it seems to me that Brandon and the city administration ought to be able to hammer that out.
yes.
Given that the dollars are there in the budget, I'm reluctant to scrap the new plan 3 weeks into it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think that would be a mistake to
Yeah.
take what's a
But
pretty
I,
good plan.
but I
and
agree that we need to fix it temporarily.
It has some flaws that...
I mean, I'm old enough that I have to think about heart attacks too, so.
So whose plan was this? Where did this plan come from? Did you guys recommend the new plan with the 24-hour?
No,
Okay.
no, this came from Brandon, working with Brenda. I don't know, how did Brandon come up with this plan, or do you
You
know?
guys remember from the past city council meetings, Brandon had 3, option 1, 2.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Option 1, 2, and 3.
Uh-huh,
Obviously, this was the cheaper of the options,
yes.
but it's not the true.
There have been changes from
It's not the
option
true
3.
form of the option. It's like option 3, but version 36
Yeah,
because of all the changes. So it was between Brandon and Brenda working numbers and switching stuff around and.
and I know that one of the things that Brandon said, and he's said this a number of times, is that that option depended on having everything. You couldn't do one part of that plan without having that staffing model.
Right.
And so I think that staffing model is going to still be a goal. But,
Okay, say the staffing model's the goal. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Believe me.
but no, I agree that we need to make changes now.
How did we not see that this was going to happen?
I don't know.
I think Brandon was counting on more of our current staff picking up more appointed positions, but we had 2.6 positions that were filled, and everybody else grabbed casual because obviously 3/4 of the other people, Dakota, and everybody else went out and got other employment to lose, to make up for what they were. Well, I shouldn't say to make up for what they're going to lose with the new schedule. The problem is that a lot of people left, got full-time jobs, like Dakota, because of the possible sale. They weren't going to sit around and wait to go, okay, you're unemployed, and then now you got to scramble to find a job. So we lost a lot of people to other forms of employment because of the possible sale, not because of this model. But I think in Brandon's head, or Brandon's, you know, part of his plan is that a lot more of our, he was hoping a lot more of our staff would have picked up the appointed positions, and then we would have been okay. But when only 2 out of 6 positions are picked up, and then we have to rely on casual people to fill the rest of the schedule, is kind of where it fell apart right now.
So it was probably too soon to implement this,
Well, I don't think we had enough time to prepare for it.
and that's part of the problem, yes,
Our
because it
budget
didn't
was,
get
you know, our
approved.
budget,
Yeah,
our budget got approved towards the end of December. And then, you know, then we had to run the EMT ad. I mean, we couldn't get ahead of it because we didn't know if our budget was getting approved for it. So, I mean, to me, I mean, I think we started 3 months behind, you know, 3 months behind.
yeah.
I mean, you need time to get your apps out. I mean, now you only run an app for, what, we run it for 2 weeks?
Right.
You know? And I think they need to run a little bit longer than that, but we've ran medic ads lately for, you know, a month. We ran it 3 times and we got, you know, a grand total of probably 4 people that applied.
I only have one other question, sorry. So when we meet with Brandon tomorrow,
Yeah.
do we have people that can pick up shifts this weekend based on
The stipend.
the stipend scenario? So we could, by tomorrow, hopefully have people to pick up shifts.
I think I feel good that people would pick up too.
Okay.
And that's something, I
I
mean,
mean, I don't want to go meet with Brandon, then we can't do it anyways, so, I mean, you know what I mean?
I think that's just quite, I mean, I don't think anybody sitting here can answer that question.
Do you think
Besides-
Devin should be at this meeting? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
It-
Well,
we have
next
to-
week
we
is
have to
Super Bowl
try.
weekend, so, you know, and there's going to be a ton of people in town here as well, so it's going to be 2 really busy weekends. We obviously need to figure this out, so.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can we find that out? Can we get a straw poll of what the staff's response would be?
As far as what?
Whether they would, are they going to show?
If they were offered a stipend for this weekend, or, you know, or the rules were changed back for the next 2 weeks, how many of them would be willing to volunteer to make sure that we've got good coverage for both of these busy weekends?
I can't answer that, I don't know.
I know, but can you
I
send
mean,
out an email
You can
asking
send
for
out
that?
an email,
Yeah.
but, I mean, we won't get 100% reply by a meeting tomorrow.
No, but you might get some indications.
How many do you need by tomorrow? I mean, do you need 10 people to say, yeah, that's what I need, that's what we need to fill this weekend?
A lot of these kids love this city. They're going to pick it up.
Okay.
I believe that.
Well, I mean, the other thing you gotta remember, I mean, we're also late in the week, and, you know, are they working somewhere else already? So, I mean, it's,
How many shifts have holes, do you know?
for this
This
weekend,
Friday, Saturday,
I
Sunday?
didn't even look, but I can look quick.
I assume this model saves money, is that why we're doing it? Is this why we went to this model?
Didn't save money by any means. It increased it because the EMTs are getting paid more. Because they went to hourly.
I think it's a combination of things. It's the actually keeping, retaining people.
Would you pick up?
The fact that volunteerism is down. It gets harder to fill the shifts. It was an issue already. Remember Brandon working 4,000 hours last year, the year before last, to fill the shifts. So that's just a symptom of the issue. 2,000 hours he had to work to fill the shifts. So that says we were already having some trouble getting enough volunteers. We're looking for a model. All right, if we go to a full-time staff model, can we, that's what we were trying to do, is get to a full-time model where people could actually work at this job and make a living and be guaranteed a living. That was, if we have those kind of, if we can build on our volunteer base, the great people who support this, and build on that and offer a full-time wage, can we then run a model that's always staffed, where we're 90% staffed, or instead of 50% staffed? So that's kind of, in my mind, that was the way I looked at this model. Is, we have this issue that we need to find out a different way to do things.
So we have 2 casual guys here right now. And I just asked Dakota here if he would pick up if he wasn't working his new job. And he said yes. Is that a fact? Caleb, do you, if you were able to pick up hours this weekend, would you?
I have a full-time job and another part-time, so.
Did you pick up that full-time job after this new model, or
No.
you always had it? Okay. That's 50%.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and, with the plan at this point, that we got at this point, and then keep working on things.
So the first objective is to get staffed for this weekend and next weekend, and then the second objective would be, what's the hybrid that we're going to run until we either decide that Model 3 will work, or we say Model 3 isn't going to work, and we step back to something different.
I would try to go until March, just because of weather and stuff like that. And a lot of people, I have 3 daughters that play hockey, so I know how crazy it gets up there. And last night, right before a game, there was a bad accident. And I know that was just yesterday, but when you get all those people up there, something's going to happen. Why even risk it? Just have the staff on.
Yeah, no, I think, but that's the first objective, is to get the staff for these next 2 weekends. And
Yeah,
then-
or until the end of March, when the snow kind of goes away, we don't have to worry about.
I just say, first, let's take these 2 weekends. We can swallow that bite without financially
Okay, I got what
having
you're
to
saying.
make new decisions. If we go beyond that, then we're probably going to have some budget issues that requires a whole different set of rulemaking.
I understand.
Okay.
And that's a guess, but I
Right.
highly suspect that'll happen.
All right, move on to the facilities work group. So,
No action, waiting on the decision that didn't happen last Monday.
yeah, so I took to the Public Safety Committee the request that, all right, so the site plan was supposed to be presented Monday night, and we were expecting that there would be enough space to keep that west building and remodel it for EMS. But we don't know until we've gotten that site plan presented. So because we canceled the meeting, we didn't have the discussion about putting out for an RFP. So the plan was that immediately after the site plan was presented, or at that same meeting, that we would discuss the RFP. So so that's on hold until we have our next meeting. But it is on the agenda for our next meeting. Okay, so anything else on work groups? John isn't here to discuss setting up a finance work group yet. All right. Discussion and possible action on consolidation of local EMS services. I thought, in my notes, I had that we were going to put that off until March.
Yes. but
Okay.
Somebody else said to keep it on the agenda.
I think we need to just squash that altogether. I think it's
Don't need it.
It's a waste to keep it on the agenda to talk about, because you have to get buy-in from so many other cities and so many other services, and
As well as our own.
and who's going to be the owner, and
Right.
Okay.
it's a wasted time, effort, and energy, I think, right now.
All right.
And that's just my opinion. I mean,
No, I
if you
agree.
guys got other opinions.
I'm not
Can we
a,
give our opinions on that?
Pardon?
Can we give our opinions on that?
Sure.
I think it's a great idea in theory, absolutely 100%. But again, consolidation, like Josh was saying, I just think it's so kind of far-fetched, and everyone's kind of buy into it, and it's just probably not the best use of my time, so.
Because I think if you start talking about that again, I think we're gonna lose more people because they ain't gonna stick around. Granted, I know consolidation and sale is two completely different things, but I think if the city or even this committee or whoever starts talking about consolidating services, I mean, you might as well just toss the keys in the middle of the floor and walk out the door.
Okay.
I mean, my experiences in EMS and being at meetings just like this, it never happens. You're not going to get all these other cities to buy in.
No.
It sounds good. It sounds good to us, but River Falls is going to go, no. I mean, just as an example.
Eric, our previous chief, years ago tried it, and the problem that you can't get everybody to agree on something. We all charge different rates. And you got to get everybody together to charge exactly one thing. But then the problem is who gets the money?
Right.
I mean, one person in this county somewhere has got to hold the checkbook and take all the money.
Yeah.
And I don't think the city of Hudson, Richmond, Baldwin, or River Falls is going to give up any money.
I agree.
I think it's a complex problem. It is not a short-term issue. I still think it's a possibility because every EMS organization is in the same situation as we are. And they're all struggling. And to try to remain as both a public service and independent is going to be difficult. And I think there's a chance to create the hybrid about how we do this where the bulk of our service is locally managed, locally run, just like it is, and things like the 3rd ambulance, the midnight shift, which are problematic in that they require more coverage than the numbers would.
I mean, I think the biggest problem is
we have to say, how can we solve some of those kinds of problems and make us much more efficient? We all need to be more efficient in this because it's harder to get the money. So we need to look at how do we make it efficient without giving up the good things that we have. It's a real challenge. It's not impossible, but it's a challenge. But everybody's facing it now. So everybody has a stake in trying to solve this problem.
Who are the 4 big municipalities in St. Croix County?
So you've got
Baldwin, River Falls, New Richmond, Hudson.
Correct. No, you can't even really count River Falls because not a lot of theirs is in St. Croix County. So
A lot of that's what is it down there? Pierce. Thank you.
So technically, I guess you might as well throw Lakeview in there because they cover a lot of the northern part. So that would be the 3 big players, and we already know how that's going to go. So
It'd be a lot easier to not have to deal with Minnesota rules. So
right. The biggest problem I see is city needs to make a decision. And this is my opinion again, whether they're going to try to run this like a business or if they're going to run it like a public safety entity. If you're going to try to run it like a business, it can't be done. If you're going to run it like a public safety entity, then you have to put the money into it to get out what you need out of it.
that's very, very good, Josh. That was exactly what I wrote at the start of this meeting. Is what am I concerned about?
The city needs to make that decision. Do they want this to try to be a cash cow? Well, all of us sitting at the table with the way insurance and Obamacare is already, it ain't going to happen. Especially, there's more elderly housing that the city's building here in town, and that takes a toll on us too. Because we're only getting $300 per call, and if I go pick Joyce up at home, she gets $1,500. We get $1,500 out of her.
Depending on what my insurance covers.
Right.
But you only get $500 out of me.
Right. If you're going to run it like the way I see it, we can even ask Paul. Paul, if I take you Friday night and I say, okay, I want you to make more money, so you only have 1 bartender upstairs and downstairs. How many waitresses do you have on a Friday night?
7.
Okay, cut that and I'll give you 3.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
Yeah, you might be able to do good for, your first couple hours, but as soon as your servers gets tired and your bartender gets behind and your customers start getting mad, then it's game over for that night. You can't expect us to do more with less.
No, I agree.
You're right on. Are we going to manage this as a public service? part of our
Correct.
public safety obligation, or is it going to take some other form?
People
And that's
forget
what
that it is an
last year was all
obligation, too.
about.
Do you hear me? People forget that it is an obligation to provide that stuff. I mean, it's
Listen, yeah, that's-
fire trucks red, police cars fast, and EMS skilled. That's what you want.
Okay, so, let's keep the discussion and possible action on consolidation of local EMS services in the back of our mind in case something comes up that might make it viable. But at this point, it doesn't sound like it's not a good avenue to pursue at this point.
Right.
All right, to number 7, discussion of River Falls and St. Paul assessments. Has anybody had a chance to do any more reading on those?
I read the executive summary of the St. Paul summary. I mean, their situation is so different from ours in so many ways. I don't see the application. I don't see the relevance.
Well, the biggest relevance thing with the St. Paul study is, I mean, a city the size of St. Paul, you'd think they would have to have adequate fire and adequate EMS. In their study, they said in there multiple times that they're gearing more towards staffing their ambulances than they are their fire trucks. Because obviously there's a million more ambulance calls than obviously what they do for fire calls.
Right?
That's the biggest thing I took out of there.
Yeah.
It's just that they're staffing more towards ambulances than what they are fire trucks, which was vice versa up until the study. I mean, they were staffed more heavy on the fire side than they were on the ambulance side, so.
Okay. Any other comments on them?
But you read the St. Paul paper, and it's every other week there's an article in there about what direction they're going and which station they're closing and how they're staffing this station versus that station. And it's a real fight over there right now about how that's being done.
Has our service in Hudson ever been joined with the fire department?
No.
How'd that come about? Who has long memory?
It's always been, I mean, we've always been
Separate.
two separate.
Yeah.
I mean, if Mike Bonneman was here, he'd give you the whole history of it, but I know as the ambulance was started by it was an off group of people, I think, like the Lions or GCs or whoever originally started the ambulance, and then it ended up coming to the city, so something like that.
Well, in the county
He was part of the county. at
ran
one
the
time.
ambulance.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the county wanted to get out of the ambulance business.
So.
Okay.
I got a couple things out of the River Falls one. One was they talked about the lack of a strategic plan. And I think that's one thing that I hate to be critical of the EMS Commission because I was a member of that when I lived in the town of Troy, but the focus has not been on the strategic. Where are we going? What's our long-term view for this organization? How do we want it to be? And that gets right back to what you said: is are we going to have this as a public service or not? That decision has to be made. And once we make that decision, then we can stop a lot of the infighting that goes on. This is it. This is the direction we're taking. We've agreed to this, and it's our plan. And here's where we're going. This is what our obligation is going to be. I think the new plan, version 3, is an attempt to go in that, but we didn't make that decision from top down. We didn't get together get all the right people together and hash through this and say, this is where we're going. So, and that was the whole problem with last year and a half's negotiation was, I think, it wasn't a strategic direction that some of us agreed with. And in the end, it fell apart because that was one of the reasons it fell apart. It was not what most of us thought it should be as far as direction.
Right.
We need to have that resolved. And that was one of the very early on in the report that was mentioned. They're talking about mission and vision, and then the lack of a strategic plan, and you all of a sudden started coming together, okay, now I see they have the same issues about who's running the show and what direction it's going. I think they may be a little more solid about it than we are right now. But they're going through that same agony as to what direction do they go.
Yeah, a little bit different with River Falls and us, though, is River Falls has support from their city.
That's what?
Has support from their city. And I'm not saying that you guys sitting here don't support us, but I'm saying I think as a city as a whole, I mean, the biggest problem that happened here is the city tried to sell us.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. And that's what has killed everything here. I mean, it
did hurt the.
It's got rid of good. I mean, it's pushed good people away, and it's done for us that have stayed here. It's killed us.
Right, but it didn't sell, and it didn't kill it. It hurt it, but it's going to recover.
Right.
But
we need the support from the city.
But a strategic plan is part of the recovery.
But I think if you took a vote still today, you would still be safe. I don't see any time soon a vote coming up saying that the EMS services are going to be up for sale again. I don't even think that anyone could even say that on the board, can you? We have 3 board members in the room. Can you say it?
No, we would not. I don't think that there would be any support for making a change like that again.
The problem that I see is the city tried to sell us. Okay, that got voted down. During this whole process, as far as we need to all be adults, sit at a table, sit down, figure this out, hash it out. That's something that's never happened. It's been Brandon running around to different people. There's no reason that we cannot sit down as a city with the mayor, with Devin, the city administrator, Brenda, the finance person, and whoever else wants to be involved, sit at a table like adults. This is what we have to do. Let's figure out what's best. And let's just do it and be done with it.
But I think you put on the head before, in the 4 or 6 or however many adults are in that room have to share a common notion of what the service is for.
Right.
And we didn't have that last summer.
But this has helped us to focus on that now.
Yeah.
So, and we as an ad hoc committee can take a look at make recommendations towards a strategic plan. So, sounds like that needs to be put on our next agenda.
Well, I think we just need to take the ad hoc agenda and we need to narrow it down to our number 1 top priority right now, and that's all we work on. There's too much stuff in the pot right now, and to me personally, there's too much stuff in the pot. Are the River Falls and St. Paul studies good? Sure. But, can we relate it to here? Yeah, kind of. Does the work groups are great, but we need to target topic number 1, which is obviously staffing and getting the model to work.
Right now staffing is critical.
Because if we don't get that, I mean, we can skip talking about everything else on here because it's not going to happen. We need to pick one topic, we need to work that topic, get that topic figured out, and then move on to the next one.
I agree there's priorities, but I don't agree in one topic at a time.
Yeah, because you got to talk about.
We have a number of things we have to look at.
Yes.
So,
well, right, but
yeah, you're right. That's absolutely top priority.
But we're not going to need Ward Avenue if we can't get trucks out the door.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we can work on morale. Well, we're not going to get morale if we can't really get anything to help us. We can't build morale if I don't know what I'm trying to say is, but we need to figure out the staffing, and maybe you can put some other stuff in there with staffing, not just how are we going to fill a truck, but morale will hopefully help fill trucks. I just think there's too much stuff on the plate, and we got all these little other work groups going. I think we just need to narrow it down to the biggest top priority right now, which is our staffing of the trucks, and just beat that to death until we can get it hammered out, fixed, and away we go.
I feel confident we'll have that fixed for the next couple weekends now.
Hopefully.
I feel positive about it.
Yeah, I think that we need to keep on working on multiple avenues.
So what's the legal stuff with city council stuff where if Brandon and Josh wanted to get together with the mayor and Devin, can they just call a meeting and do that, or is there?
Sure.
Have you ever done that?
Brandon's the only one that has had meetings with the mayor and Devin. And as far as what's discussed, I don't know.
It's good to have two people.
But if I'm not invited, I can't invite myself, so.
You can ask for a meeting with the mayor and Brandon and the city administrator too.
You can too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's more your alley. I got stuff to do. Why don't you? You guys got a lot of rules.
Yeah.
Well, there's a public safety committee that exists too, that has
Right.
this as on their plate.
And Randy Morsette's the head of that,
Yes.
right?
Yes, yes. So that's, I mean, there's a group that will help support that and help provide some direction as to how we get there.
So,
That's
that's
a
a
good
suggestion. It was my understanding that the ad hoc committee was, I could be completely wrong, but that this group was going to be able to sort of step outside of today's operations and come up and say, if we had endless resources and we were able to do something, what would be the best way to have EMS going forward? Here's a St. Paul model, here's an Eau Claire model, here's a River Falls, here's a Green Bay, and one of these could really rock here in Hudson and make sense based on our city, the kind of needs we have, and that would be something we would try. I know we have the current financial challenges going forward, but in order to have a vision going forward and a mission, we would try to pick a model that would really work for Hudson. And that this group, the ad hoc committee, has the benefit of thinking outside of the box and looking at other models and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. I didn't know you guys were going to help with operations or management of EMS, so I guess I was kind of interested to see that. Because what the EMS Commission is not doing is they're not doing this either. They're kind of helping with operations. They're kind of doing the same thing, only their agenda's even longer.
Yeah, but the EMS Commission doesn't have much teeth anymore.
What they do, but they aren't understanding because those are the actual other partners in the game too, that North Hudson and Town of Hudson and Croix. But if we're going to treat this like a public service, what is it going to be? We need a 3-year, 5-year plan to say we're targeting that. These are all going to go towards it, and we do have to have this and that. But in order to everyone to buy into the public service, we got to know what it's going to be. Is it really going to be this next model? Will that be good enough for the long term? I don't think so. I think we need a better model, and then we can start committing to what does it look like as a public service. And I need to correct you on the fact that the city did not try to sell this. That was a couple people that had an idea that we might be able to work with a hospital to do that. Most of us were just waiting to see how the proposal was going to come about. It was poorly run, and it was not something that most of us on council really wanted to even entertain, but we thought we'd look at the option.
Right.
So from my standpoint, we didn't ever try to sell it. We were just looking to see what was another possibility that could go down. So I think it's a misunderstanding, and but neither here nor there. It seems to me the ad hoc committee has an amazing opportunity here to try to create what is the next public safety EMS model that we could have, and then we got to figure out how to get around that and move forward. So I thought that's kind of where you guys were headed, and that's why you wanted the 2 years to be able to do that. So that's my suggestion. Maybe take a look at some other things to say, hey, how can we rebuild this deal and make it go forward? So that's my 2 cents.
I certainly agree. That has to be one of our primary objectives. In the meantime, seems to be some short-term stuff that we have to help, that we're ending up being in between to try to help get these things resolved.
Yeah.
Just because we're looking at it differently and
Yeah, I mean, our charter is, moving St. Croix EMS towards financial and operational stability while maintaining a community-based service model. That's That's our goal here.
That's
Right,
great.
but I think that too many people are looking for like a Groupon, you know, some sort of discount on,
Yeah,
hey, we can run it cheaper by doing this. It's not about cheaper, let's worry about the service.
yeah. And that's what, then, if you remember what Ben Wassman said last time, that he recommended that we incorporated into the committee guidelines, how are we going to make sure of reliability, sustainability, and viability?
Right.
And so I've been keeping that in my mind as I'm looking at all of these proposals and all this information.
How do we change our meeting night so it's the night Brandon's here? It's not against Josh, it's just they should both be here.
I agree. So, we can change our meeting time. So it's, that's number 10 on the agenda. So when we get to that, we'll change our meeting time. So let's get through the rest of these. So anything more about the River Falls and St. Paul assessments? EMS discussions or items for discussion only. Progress of monthly meetings. I take it that's the monthly staff meetings. So
There was a staff meeting held on the, was it 16th?
okay.
So I was gone on a transfer, and me and Joe came back late, so I can't really comment on what was discussed. I mean, Joanne can, she was there the entire time, but I don't really know what was discussed and what questions were asked for staff.
We don't even know what was discussed, that's you guys. It's just, I wanted to know, did people receive it good? Were they there? Did they show up?
How many folks were there, roughly?
Around 12 or so.
It was the first one, and they're gonna be monthly. And
Just an explanation of how he wanted this to run.
did communication go both ways or one way?
Not really, but there were some questions asked, but I know that a lot of people didn't get a chance to talk.
But they, in the future.
Is the next one scheduled?
No.
We didn't have, there wasn't a lot of heads up, I think.
And it was really short notice for this meeting, so.
We used to have them planned out every month. We knew that day that's
Josh, will you talk to him about getting it? I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah, we did talk about doing monthly, the second Tuesday of going back to the second Tuesday of every month again. Just
That'd be good.
before, other stuff.
Having
we
something
got
that they
going
can put
on.
on their calendar is always.
Yep, so you got that in place?
It's not in place, but I know that's something that we talked about the other day, so.
All right.
What about a suggestion box? Did you follow up on that too?
I know I want to do one, I just got to get a box and.
Okay, so it is in the
Correct.
works. Okay, good. Jim, did you have a comment?
No, it's about the
Oh.
schedule, so that's coming up.
Okay, future agenda items, anything that? So I think that we should talk a little bit more about the strategic plan. Okay,
Yeah, I think we ought to make a plan, over the next few months, we should make a plan to create a strategic plan. I mean, I think the new staffing model is a beginning. But I think I agree, we need to do more than that.
okay.
Josh, I just ordered you a suggestion box. It'll be here by Friday.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be my donation.
Okay, that took care of that. All right.
It's on.
Something else that I found is that our latest copy of Municipality Magazine talked about South Milwaukee did a referendum to fund their public safety. So it was a combination of EMS and police. But they followed a plan that was very similar to what we did with what was done with the school referendum. They hired a consultant to handle that, to do surveys and make sure that whatever it is that that the public was informed and that was what they wanted. So I'll send a link to this so that you can send that out.
That was an excellent article.
It was
a
good.
real eye-opener.
Because I think that if we're going to be moving from this committee looking at well, I mean, all right, so we're moving toward financial and operational stability, but if that means something different from what we were expecting when we started this, then I think that a referendum is probably going to be something that we'd need to think about. Okay, all right, next meeting time and date. So one of the reasons that we chose Wednesday evenings was that there weren't a lot of other meetings on Wednesdays, and the other nights of the week are pretty busy for the city, but we've got the Mondays that are opposite the city council meetings. Are there, Jim, do you know, and John, do you know if there are other groups that meet on Monday nights?
Not right now. The third Monday would work. The fourth Monday, we're trying to do the Trail Advisory Committee, which is this coming Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So the second Monday would be available, because the first and third, but there are 2 Mondays available every month that are not council meetings. So the fourth one, we're trying to do a meeting here at 5, but you guys don't meet till 6:30. So you can do the fourth or the second Monday.
Or both. We're meeting twice.
We're meeting twice a month.
Oh, you meet twice a month. Okay.
So then, would Monday nights work for most people?
Works for me.
Paul?
Yes. I'm going to be missing, I have a staff trip coming up next month, just for 48 hours, but that'd be the only meeting I would miss if we do it on the second Monday, right?
Usually the council meets on the first and third Mondays of the month, but,
It's got the 12th on.
Except
yeah,
the second,
except for,
And the
we're meeting
fifth.
second and fourth right now.
yeah, February, and then is March, is it the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
April, it changes in the
Okay.
last half of April, it switches to first, third.
Let's just get our next meeting set up.
Yeah, so when is it?
And then we can always, well, okay, so it's scheduled for February 14th. However, Brandon's going to be in class that night. So,
It's about the 11th.
It's a Sunday.
So February,
I barely see the calendar from here.
so February
Yeah,
5th
it's
is
open.
booked already?
No,
February 5th is not,
It's a Monday.
It's a
Everyone
Monday.
can be here.
yeah.
and that's a week and a half.
Okay. Sure.
Let's make that tentative because that's the second optional date for the
Yes.
council meeting if
Oh, the
if they.
makeup one?
Right, and,
Well,
but
it
if we
sounds like
meet
we'll
that
probably have a
night,
quorum.
if we meet on the 5th, then what the mayor suggested was that we skip the 12th, so then we could meet the 12th.
Okay.
So would the 12th work for everybody as well?
Not for me.
Not for you.
But you can meet without me.
We can, okay.
It wouldn't be fun, come on.
I think the 5th is going to be open because I think we're probably going to meet on the next Monday, this
All right.
council.
Yes, let's plan on the 5th, 6:30. Here, can you check the agenda, check the schedule to make sure that we can meet here?
Okay.
And, everybody satisfied with that?
Yep.
And then, if the city council meets, then we'll figure another Monday night. Or come up with something. All right. Anything else about the next meeting? That's the end of our agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.